Hello, everyone. Today, we're talking about that inner joy again. And to really try to take it apart a little bit, to try to understand it, perhaps not with the mind in the typical sense, because the mind likes very concrete theories and concrete maps on what we're talking about. We like to conceptualize these things. The last few episodes, we've kind of discussed this idea of this inner joy. I just posted a quick little short video the other day about that, the true mark of well-being is accessing the joy within, the inner joy that can only be accessed in this present moment. And it sounds good, right? Like it sounds like the kind of thing that you've heard on different, people, different podcasts, different spiritual teachers have talked about it. But, what is this thing, this sense of joy that, again, can only be tapped into right now? And sometimes, my buddy Doug Williams reposted my last short video very nicely and mentioned that sometimes these kind of concepts can be a way to sort of spiritualize all our problems. That, okay, well, I have this financial issue, I have this relationship issue, so I'm just going to sort of ignore it, but I'm going to go within and connect, so everything's cool even though my life's not cool. This sort of uh, there's a lack of authenticity there, that it's, things aren't really that perfect, and we're just sort of escaping our challenges by, sort of almost pretending to be spiritual. And I guess there can be a lot of some of that when we ignore the challenges that life throws at us and not face them and try to deal with them with the most wisdom that we can muster. But still, even if we have figured out all our challenges, even if we have sorted out, and there's never an end, there's going to be another challenge in life in our external reality. Even if we have sorted everything out in the external world, there's still going to be a sense of lacking unless we access the true source of well being, which is right now. And again, the question comes up, well, what are you talking about? Like, I get it, okay? Because I'm just channeling a skeptic here, which is like, well, I get it, but okay, I'm here in this moment. And to be honest, I'm just kind of bored. And yeah, I just want to do stuff. I'm bored. Like, I don't get it. What's up with this present moment thing? Where's this joy thing? I don't feel it. I don't see it. What are you talking about? Like, and so I can understand that perspective. It's not an obvious thing that that is just there to grasp. As soon as you take a moment to be a little more in the moment, that all of a sudden it's just this revelation of joy that just pours out of your system. I get it. That's not the promise here. And there's no promise, by the way. This is an exploration of trying to reach something that cannot be reached with concepts. It can only be felt. It can only be sensed in a way, or a sense of connection with it. Now, what is that? And I'm using this thing because we can use different words, and we'll look at a few different angles, but the words are just ways to kind of point at it. But you're not going to go there with your mind like, oh, I finally figured out what it is. There's no figuring it out. There's just feeling it and being with it. But maybe we can help the mind a little bit. Our mind is very programmed to think in what can be called the Newtonian sense. Isaac Newton, who developed the classical laws of physics, the billiard balls, that, you know, this causes that, which causes this, and in the future, this will happen if I instigate this. Sorry, I have a little kitty situation. One moment. um, the Newtonian sense that things kind of knock off each other into a chain of causation that leads to, so if I'm going to take care of today in a good way, that'll cause the future to work out pretty good. And obviously, we have to work. I'm not trying to say that's a bad thing to do. Obviously, the classical sense of seeing the world is extremely practical, and that's good. But there's an assumption there. a deep assumption that the Newtonian way of seeing the world, the classical world, you can call it, that is the ultimate reality, that's what it is. And when we go past that, we're just sort of deluding, or we're almost deluding ourselves, or it's just a spiritual trick. It's just sort of an escapism or whatever. We're just escaping into our mind when the real physical reality is out there. But the thing that Newton assumed when he made his classical laws was the idea of a universal clock, that basically everybody follows the same universal clock. And we all operate like that, like our world exists like that. We have that there's one sort of godly clock that's just ticking away in the universe and making things move forward in the arrow of time from past into the future. And that's how it is, and that's reality. But it gets very messy when we go into very deep kind of concepts about this sort of stuff, because, Einstein, when he came up with general relativity, he sort of surpassed Newton because his predictions were even more precise, more accurate by an order of magnitude than Newton. So, for example, the way Mercury orbits the sun couldn't be explained with Newton's laws, didn't make sense. The way light seems to bend around big objects like the planet doesn't seem to make sense with Newton's laws, but it all made sense with general relativity. And what Einstein essentially said is that there is no universal clock, that everything is relative to each other. Okay, so if we can hold that, there's no universal clock according to our best science. It doesn't exist. And in fact, things like gravity affect time, according to Einstein. So something very, very heavy, very, very dense in gravity has slower and slower time. So the more there's intense gravity, or space-time curvature is another term, the less, the more time slows down. And if you go into infinite gravity, such as a black hole, technically within a black hole, time just doesn't move. It's timeless. It is some sort of structure, some sort of thing that exists outside of time. It is timeless. And then you take something incredibly like omnipresent, like light. Okay, light is with us every day. It's everywhere around us. It makes our life so lovely that we can see things and use our eyes and interact in the physical world because of light and light particles bouncing around. Because the other thing that Newton said, that Einstein said, was that when things move faster and faster and faster and faster, again, time slows down. So a light particle zipping around at the speed of light, technically does not experience time. It is timeless. For us, from our point of view, we seem to be able to measure the light from the star that took millions of years to get to our eyeball. That's our perspective. But the light coming from the star to our eyeball from its perspective, going at the speed of light, there's no time. It did not experience any time. There was time held completely still. So some of the most important phenomena, like the black hole at the center of our galaxy, it just seems that black holes seem to have a very important role in shaping the structure of our reality. And so we have a huge black hole that the whole galaxy just circulates around. So obviously an important structure that we don't quite understand. But that thing, from its perspective, there's no time. There's some sort of infinite gravity happening with no time. And then light that is bouncing all these gazillions photons bouncing all around us, also from their perspective, there's no time. There's a timelessness that's real. That's what I'm trying to get at here, is that the concept of timelessness, not eternity, and we can go back to another part. We can come back to that different time of the interpretation of the teachings of eternity. But just for the time being, the term timeless, that there is no time, or that time emerges. The time is not some fundamental thing. It's not a thing that's the deepest stuff of reality. Okay, that's the assumption of Newton. That was Newton's assumption of that there is a universal clock, that time is the deepest stuff, and then everything moves with that universal clock. And then comes along Einstein and says, "Oh, that's not true. Time warps itself and stretches and condenses and so on and so forth." So the most common and important stuff that compose our reality exists themselves in a timeless state outside of time. And again, I'm trying to tease the brain in the right direction here, just to edge it along so that the mind can let go of the skepticism and begin the process of feeling. Because when we start to tap into the present moment, to truly access the joy within, it's about paying attention the best we can to start sensing the underlay of timelessness. Like Eckhart Tolle talks about the vertical dimension of time, that we're so programmed in our heads that time runs horizontally. We were born here, I'm living now here, I'm going to die here, and it's going along this horizontal axis. And that's how it is. But Eckhart Tolle talks about that symbol of the cross, that we are at the interface between the horizontal plane of reality, which is a real thing, we have to honor it. But there's a vertical plane that we move into now. We move deeper into now. And I think a lot of the teachings about meditation and that spiritual teachers talk about, the point of it is actually just to begin training ourselves to pay attention. Because paying attention to now is what's required to start to feel it. And when you pay attention really intensely, there's still some, mental rumblings, but it's like really like being so attentive to right now that you can feel a sense that there is something timeless behind it, that's the joy. That's where the joy really starts to come into the system, that you can also feel a flood of joy that can come through into your system when you start to literally feel that there's a timelessness to reality, that there's something right now that's never started and never ended. It's just there, and it's always been there, and it's always going to be there. It's the mind can't go there. It's very hard to go there conceptually. Because even if you have it conceptually, it doesn't matter, because it's about feeling it, feeling the sense that there's something outside of time. There's a timelessness. There's a dimension that's not linear in the Newtonian billiard balls, one thing knocking the next thing over kind of sense. But there's something underlying it. And that's why the vertical dimension, the vertical of going into now very deeply. But if we can't give it the attention, if we can't truly, and that's where it makes the belief, it's not a belief in a God or a belief in a new system or religious system. It's the belief that now is important, that now is still incredibly important, that it needs attention, that now needs attention, and that those things you got to think about in the future, or the things you're worried about or anxious about the past, sometimes they do need to be honored, and we should honor them. But the now, we ought to believe that the now needs attention, because now is where the timeless reality, the reality that underlies everything, almost like the mother's bosom that holds the child deeply around, like all our physical reality, all the stuff we're worried about, all the crap we're constantly dealing with, it's contained by something timeless. And so that's the joy, and it's hard to explain that when you can feel that timelessness, That's the gift, that this sense of joy without cause, because that timeless state is naturally just well. There's just and so we're not making it well. We're allowing that wellness from the timeless reality to come through, to just come through into our system. I'll leave it like there. I'll leave it there, folks, for today. This is a tricky one. Uh, I'm just trying to have fun with this and, try to come at it from different angles to explain something that's really hard to explain. And for me, like just conceptually, it's really uh, these are not necessarily. It's not about catching the right concept, but it's about feeling this moment and feeling the timeless. And if we can all sometimes just feel it a little bit, I think we're going to be a happier society altogether. Best wishes, folks. We'll see you next time.